Hey guys, J-Limbs here. Today I'll be talking about why the 1080 is better than the 1080 Ti currently at the moment in 2017. Now I know that there's a lot of reviews out now for the 1080 Ti saying that we are expecting to see about 35% increase in performance from the 1080 and roughly, between 3 to 5% better than the Titan XP. I don't doubt those stats. I don't doubt them at all. But a few things I'll be talking about today will hopefully help you in deciding whether or not to buy a 1080 versus a 1080 Ti. I'll have three main points to talk about. The first point that I'll be talking about is the price. Since the announcement of the 1080 Ti, there has been a price drop for the 1080s. Roughly about, you're seeing some 1080s go for about 700 somethings Canadian, where the 1080 Ti is speculated to be about $1,000. So, first off the bat, the price. If you're willing to pay the price, which would be another $200 to $300 or more dollars, then that's something to consider. The next thing in regards to price is the performance per dollar. Are you getting all the performance that you deserve or that you want for how much money you're willing to spend? That's another thing to consider. And like I said, with the price drop going down for the 1080s, the price to performance is actually getting a lot better. The next point that I'll be talking about is availability. So, if you guys have been paying attention to the recent releases for the 980 Ti's and the 980s and so on and so forth, and 480 from AMD, at launch, usually they are running out of stock. And it's hard to get, you'll be lucky to get any items from anywhere. Now, that's something to consider. If you are waiting to if you're building a system or have a current system and you're waiting and you want to upgrade, or you had a part break like I did and you need to get a part so you can replace and get back to gaming, those are things to consider. The 1080 Ti most likely will be out of stock and hard to find for the next month or two, and by that time you might have found better things, or by that time there'll be other options, because at launch we all know that they're going to start releasing the founder editions first, and in my mind those aren't the ones that I would want to get to, although it's probably the best looking type of card that there is, but it's the worst performing as in for cooling. I always love to see board partners make aftermarket coolers and fan systems for the cards, just to give you better overclocking. So with that said, are you willing to wait or really miss out on the first products that come out? And then you ought to understand as well, even when you're waiting for those items to come back into stock, by the time those come back into stock, then the other board partners and third parties will be actually releasing their versions of the 1080 Ti, where that's the time where actually quantities will be a little bit better for you to actually have increased chances of getting products, but you'll still have to wait, and my guess is within 2 to 3 months. The last thing is performance. At this time for 4K, 4K is the benchmark, but for me I think 4K is just out of whack. The latest reviews that I've seen from the 1080 Ti for 4K, most of the heavy hitting demanding titles like Crisis or Battlefield, well, I'm not sure about Battlefield 1, but for the more harder to run games, it's struggling to get around 60 frames per second. Now don't go crazy, but we all know that certain games require more. Overwatch, it can play 4K at probably like 80-90 frames per second. Battlefield 1, I think it runs around 70-80 frames per second as well at 4K. But for me, I like to be as competitive as possible, especially with first-person shooter games that I always focus on. So for me, I'm probably going to wait for the next generation or two after this generation, when we can actually see some 4K 4K gaming in, anywhere in the 100 Hz range. Once we're at that point, that's where I'll invest in a better monitor. But until then, I'm happy with what I'm getting at 1080p, and there's no problems with that for me. And lastly, I have heard from certain reviewers that the 1080 Ti is exactly or up to 35% more powerful than the 1080. But I know at some other reviews state that they have been getting around roughly 35% performance. Now, the only thing that I would say with that is if you can save $200 to $300 for a card that's 35% less, but you can overclock to roughly, to lessen that disparity by 5 or 10%. Is it worth it to you? For me, $200 or $300. It really depends on if I feel like I have the money to spend. Most of the time, I usually try and get the bleeding edge, but sometimes I do try and think more to be more frugal or to be more sensible when it comes to buying things and spending money. So let me know what you guys think. Basically, at this moment today, I would say a 1080 is the perfect buy for anyone that's a serious gamer or even a high-end gamer, because 1080 still runs everything perfectly fine at 1080p and 1440. And then you can see some struggling depending on certain games and tasking in 4K, but it still can do pretty well. And you still have another option where you can actually SLI, which I'll be testing in one of my next videos. I'm going to be SLIing some items, and we're going to see how it works. So, guys, that's about all I got. Please like, subscribe, and dislike if you really have to. JLM's out, and I'm just going to leave you guys with some gameplay footage. See ya.